hot? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Cullen. I'm the content director for Vegas PBS. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate everybody being here. It is 6 o'clock, but we are hoping that more people will come, so we are going to put off the start time for a few minutes, giving more people who might be caught in the infamous Las Vegas traffic a little more time to get here. So your patience is appreciated. Please feel free to mingle and talk to the people around you, get to know you. This is a listening session. We want to hear everybody's voices, and we'll get to it in just a few minutes. Thanks so much. Hi again. Again, my name is Natalie Cullen. I'm the content director for Vegas PBS. Again, thank you so much for coming out. We very much appreciate your dedication to this project because we're very dedicated to it. Everybody, I think, has kind of got their seats, but if there's any stragglers out in the lobby that would like to come out, take a seat. If you want to get closer to your friends and neighbors, please do. We don't have then our two people don't have to run so far. But thank you so much for coming, and we're going to get started now with the Nevada Democracy Project. Thank you.
Housing crisis, lack of affordable housing. I read in the news recently that 70% of Las Vegas population cannot afford a home.
I really, truly don't see the urgency that is needed in order to shift a lot of the issues that are currently going on in education.
I think trying to start a family is very scary to me as I'm getting older because I don't know how the world is going to be.
We were ground zero for the biggest mass shooting in America. Nothing made sense.
Hello, I'm Renee Dixon, host of Nevada Week on Vegas PBS.
And I'm Rocio Hernandez, reporter for the Nevada Independent.
You just heard a few of the many questions and concerns people have shared during Nevada Democracy Project listening sessions.
The Nevada Democracy Project is a partnership between two respected news organizations, Vegas PBS and the Nevada Independent. Together, we're focusing on civic engagement and community conversations.
We're visiting neighborhoods around Southern Nevada to learn what you want elected officials to focus on, because we believe every Nevadan affected by an issue should have a say.
Our team of experienced journalists will share valuable information across multiple platforms, ensuring coverage reaches more people where they're at.
The Nevada Democracy Project, a continuous, trusted source for that information now in the 2024 election and beyond.
Good evening, everybody.
Buenas noches, bienvenidos a East Las Vegas Community Center and Nevada Democracy Project.
I'm John Ralston. I'm the editor and CEO of the Nevada Independent, and I am here with someone who actually knows what she's doing. You can introduce yourself, Maria.
Far from it. Maria Silva with Vegas PBS, proud member of the Vegas PBS family. I'm also the host of Bienvenidos a Las Vegas, a show focused on our beautiful and ever-growing diverse Latino community. And I have to say, John, I'm really excited that we are here because I grew up here. This is a neighborhood near and dear to my heart, featured in Bienvenidos a Las Vegas. I grew up literally right across here, 28th Street and Elm Street right here. So again, it's an honor to be here. It's a beautiful community center. And another great thing, we're talking about right democracy. This is one of the early voting centers here in Nevada.
So the East Las Vegas Community Center is kind of, as you know, having grown up near here, is a kind of a legendary place, right? A lot of important events have occurred here. We don't want to take up much of your time. We want to get to you, because the Nevada Democracy Project is really about you. It's not about us. This is about us listening to the concerns of the community and you telling us not just what issues you think are important, but what issues you think we're missing that we should be covering. We don't want anybody to hold back. And believe me, we're about to introduce Amber and Rocio. If you try to hold back, they're going to stick a microphone in your face and you will have no choice. But this evening is about you.
Yes.
I hope some more people show up, but even if they don't, the fact that you've taken time out of your busy lives to be here is very meaningful to us.
Yes, we can't thank you enough for being here again. If you want to move up a little closer, we promise we don't bite. This is, again, we're like familia here. We want to, again, as John mentioned, hear your concerns. This is about you, and as you noticed in the video, we also follow up. It's not just about doing this democracy project and then we hear your concerns and, you don't hear about them. We have these talented here reporters and anchors and hosts who will follow up on your concerns and do a little digging and do a little journalism, right? And make sure that we present your concerns to those who have say and can hopefully resolve that issue.
So without further ado, get ready, and we're going to introduce, they'll introduce themselves, but here are two great reporters,
yes.
And they're ready to listen to you. Amber and Rocio, it's all yours.
Take it away. So honored. Go get him, girl.
Thank you, John and Maria. And as they mentioned, we're here to listen to you. We want to learn from you and know what you think is not being covered well enough by your local media. This is an open forum. Please feel free to share your ideas. Let us know what you want us to be covering.
And before we begin, there's a few housekeeping rules to let you know about. If you want to speak, raise your hand, and Amber and I will come to you. And if you can stand up and say your full name, we'll be ready to start.
We want to make sure we hear from as many people as we can tonight. So please get your full thoughts out, but be mindful others may want to talk. And, you know, with the number that we have here, we may come back to you if you want to share something else. We'll also be holding the mic for you. Don't feel like you need to hold it yourself.
And we know that there may be some topics tonight that people are especially passionate about, and we're excited to jump right into those. We just ask that everyone stay respectful to each other's opinions and to avoid using curse words or defamatory language.
Remember that this is being recorded and that portions of this conversation will be used in future news coverage, and it will also be available in full on both of our organization's websites.
So let's get started and get going with the conversation tonight. So we wanted to start it off with asking you about what brought you here today and what are some of the issues that you want to see covered in Nevada. Do we have any takers?
This gentleman in the white shirt is on a time limit, Rocio, so I said we'd go with him first.
Yeah, hi.
So if you could stand up and introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Al Rojas. I've been here in the state of Nevada for 7 years. I lived in Orange County for 38 years. I'm a retired electronics engineer. And what I see here, first of all, I think we got a bright future. I think that one of the biggest problems is we got to get our kids to read. But before I say that is that we have a bright future because we have a sheriff here, Kevin McMahill, who supports minorities and he supports the Latino community. And that's the biggest problem in minority communities is they don't have a good relationship with law enforcement. Well, we don't have that problem here. That's behind us. The second, now what we got to do is we got to get kids reading. Because a kid that can read properly will make better decisions. And psychologists are saying that a kid that can't read adequately by the 3rd grade will usually not graduate high school. As a matter of fact, there's some studies, that's how they determine how many jails to have based on the performance of 3-year-old kids. Now, I had to leave the U.S. when I was 1 year old, and I came back to the U.S. when I was 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, I didn't speak any English, and they told me, you're not going back to Mexico. This is your country. So at 5 years old, I realized that I had to learn how to read, write, and speak English if I wanted to be successful in America. And I didn't know that if I didn't read by the 3rd grade, I was not going to be anything. Psychologists are telling me that if you tell a kid that's 5 years old that he has to read by the 3rd grade, 85% of the kids will get the message. And I think I would like PBS to do a documentary to research that out more, to show what happens when a kid can't read by the 3rd grade, and get that message out to parents, and get that message out to kids. And I believe that if you tell a parent and a kid that if a kid can't read by the 3rd grade at a 3rd grade level, that both the parent and the kid will work together to make sure that by the 3rd grade they read adequately. I'm told that once the kid can read by the 3rd grade, he will usually figure things out by himself, and he has a chance for the American dream. And in closing, our message to the Latino community should be that if your kid can't read by the 3rd grade at a 3rd grade level, he's not going to get the American dream. And I think that would motivate the kid and the parent to get reading.
Thank you so much. I thought I saw a hand over on this side. Was that from you? Would you like to raise your hand so I could ask? I'll have you stand up and please tell everyone your name.
My name is Zachary Freed.
What brings you here tonight? What would you like to address?
So what brought me here tonight was actually finding the Democracy Project on YouTube. It was probably about a year or two ago where I discovered that Las Vegas had a PBS station, And I was so surprised to discover this because my whole life growing up, like PBS was a big thing in my family or with other friends of mine. But I just personally hadn't had an experience of seeing Vegas PBS kind of like drive by my house or something. So then over the past year or two, I was just really impressed with the output of the work and the consistent coverage of like truly local events and stuff going on. Same with the Nevada Independent. But then I was kind of just shocked to see the engagement online. I felt like there were a lot of people my age, I'm 22, that weren't interacting with like the Nevada Indie or Vegas PBS. So I purely just came here tonight to want to support the effort because I think it's a great effort.
Where are you from?
Born and raised here in Las Vegas.
But you just discovered Vegas PBS a couple of years ago?
Quite literally, yeah.
How?
Because in town I do filmmaking and social media type of stuff. So just kind of as I'm trying to see like what local institutions are out there and things like that for news coverage, as well as just kind of in the time we're in with the false media or conspiracy theories and things that get shared online. In high school, I went to LVA downtown, that Academy of Performing Arts, and they were really big on like neutral sources when you do an essay or something, and PBS was always something that came up as a neutral source. So like personally for me, I've always turned to now like Vegas PBS and like the PBS NewsHour to try to get more of like a unbiased sort of perspective of news and that kind of thing.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What could Vegas PBS and the Nevada Independent do to get more people your age reading and watching our content?
Yeah, I feel a big thing for me when it comes to content is I feel like a lot of people want to feel that they have like a personal connection to what they're watching. So I personally have taken the time to go to like the Las Vegas Centennial Commission and other platforms that are giving grants, because growing up being a part of an arts community here in Las Vegas, that was sort of my hub of what would get me out of bed in the morning or trying to do things outside of school was arts programs, arts activities. And I find that here in Las Vegas, especially like downtown Las Vegas, we have this like big arts kind of just community that's starting to thrive, or let's say getting more publicity and things like that. And I find that like Vegas PBS compared to something like Milwaukee PBS, I feel like sometimes lacks more coverage on some of the local arts. Or I've seen in Milwaukee, they'll go down to like their local amphitheater and have local artists perform. And I think there's just something empowering just having that instant access to a local musician that you may not have heard about, but as they kind of develop their career, you might have that connection. And I think things like that, especially I'm very arts focused. I feel like arts can play a big role with Vegas PBS and other platforms.
Thank you so much. You didn't find any takers, Rocio?
Anyone else want to follow that up?
This woman in the back. You see her?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's itching for the mic. Your name and
Sheila Moulton, and why I came is because I've been reading the Nevada Independent. I have loved PBS for years. I served on the school board from 98 to 2010, and in 2020, about 7 of us former school board members formed a group called ABC PAC, and it was to produce a better. Okay, I see you're nodding, John. To research school board members and to encourage people to vote down the ballot knowledgeably. And so we worked in the 2020 election, in the 2022, and again here. And we do endorse. I won't tell any endorsements tonight because I just wanted people to get to know us a little better. And then we try to build relationships with the trustees. Some of them do come to us for counsel and advice, especially on this superintendent search, because few of them have ever been through that effort before. So I'm here tonight to tell you about ABC PAC, and if anybody has any questions, I'll stick around. And I was hoping that maybe the Nevada Independent would like to do a little bit on us at some point in time and find out a little bit more about us, because we do have a lot of former legislators and former school board members and community members that believe with all our hearts that the school board is a very important race. And for years we've seen some unprofessionalism on it. And what we do is when the candidates come out, we do everything we can to interview them. To be honest with you, only about half of them want to be interviewed, but then we do our endorsements from that. So I thank you. And I'm so glad you found PBS, because isn't that a treasure? It was I'll just tell this one little story. My dad came to live with me from 6 months from Idaho when he was getting older. And he said, Sheila, we have to donate to PBS, little teeny amounts, but that's how important that is. And getting the communication out. And I have loved what the Independent does. I think it really looks at both sides of the issues, and I love that, so I'll quit.
Oh, no, I was about to ask you a couple more questions. First of all, appreciate you.
If it's about education, I'll talk about it. No.
Yeah, I was curious if you could talk about what, as a former CCSD school board member, how you feel about the state of education today.
My heart pines. I still have 6 grandchildren in it. I have a son and a son-in-law that teach at CCSD. We've lived here since 1978. My 6 children went through the system. I just know we all have to work together, and we have to unify. And I have spoken at the board meeting. I think one of the most important things that's going on right now is that superintendent search, and I've cautioned the board to show unity. Any of the the little bit of hostility that sometimes you feel, and since I listen to all the board meetings if I don't attend them. And I just want people to come together. And young people, we got to have you. We've got to have you. We've got to have you voting. We've got to have you in discussions and coming tonight to listening sessions. So we can do better. And I think we've got a lot going for us. I've got grandkids that are doing great, but I just want everyone to. So does that...
Yeah, I was also wondering, as a former school board member, what do you think we can all do to help improve the district or even just K-12 education statewide?
We got to get unified. If we all band together, and if we let legislators know all the good things that are going out there, and that's what I think is important, because there is a lot of good going on. But the backbiting that I've seen, and I know that goes on underneath, is not good for children. And you know what? Our children see it and say, hey, our big adult our mentors are doing it, so can we. We've got to set a good example. So just unity and working together, communication. I was just listening to the board meeting that's going on right now, and they're getting the profile for the superintendent. And they've got, about 5 categories that are very important for a superintendent to have in order to lead this district.
Well, we appreciate having someone with your expertise here tonight.
May I ask one more question? I wonder what you tell people when you're convincing them that they need to vote in their trustee races. How do you get people to understand the importance of that if they don't have any skin in the game, if they don't have a child or a grandchild?
Well, and I know I've still got a grandchild, but it is our community. And what you see going on, when I was on the board, I'll just tell just a little history because it was interesting. 98 to 2010, we built 116 new schools. We grew from 210,000 to close to 220,000 students at that time. So growth was an issue. One year we opened 18 schools. Can you imagine 18 new principals we had to pull out and move teachers and everything? And now I forgot your question because I got on my little standbook about, the history of it. I think we have to realize the history and how far we've come. Now, I have to tell you, in all honesty, I sat on the charter authority, the state charter authority, after I finished with the school district. And I think one of the things that education has to do, everybody's got to work together. Not like this, but like this. Come together, talk to each other, learn from one another, and just a lot of good here in the district. So let's find the good, emphasize the good, which PBS and Nevada Independent can do. And anyway, if you ever want to talk to me, I'm available.
All right, gentleman in the green. But also, Rocio, I saw the gentleman in the back on the laptop nodding in agreement with what she said, so perhaps you might have something to add. Oh, okay, all right. What is your name, sir?
My name is Cyrus Hojadi. Thank you for having me here again. I'd like to say thank you so much for this event. It's a really great opportunity to share. I know we talk about we live in a democracy, but first of all, I'd wish that more of our elected officials have the ability to listen to me, because a lot of times I speak to many different politicians, senators, state legislators. I talk to them. I have it on video. They just walk away. They ignore me. They don't have town halls. I think this is absurd. We need to have more town halls where they're involved. They listen to us. They don't have to like what we have to say, but we have to be heard. So now the issue I want to talk about is car insurance rates. And, some people are being hit by the rising cost of living in different ways. Car insurance is a concern. I know a lot of people are refusing to register their vehicles. They register in other states because they don't want to pay these ridiculous rates. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on because these lawyers are getting huge amounts of settlements. I think we need to talk to our legislatures about this. Frankly, I think they're part of the problem because they passed these laws that increases all these minimums. But it's also a problem we have, and I don't want to sound like a parrot. I brought it up in the last meeting. We have an urban planning problem. The way we design our neighborhoods, if you have no car in 95% of Las Vegas, you're toast. You're screwed. You can't easily walk from where you need to go. It's a disaster. You look at the way our car infrastructure, these arterial routes, these 6-laners, these long traffic light intersections, they're not safe. They're not safe. And we blame the drivers, but we don't realize the way we grew with these strip malls, with these cul-de-sacs, it's not working. And this is why I am a local chair of the organization Strong Towns Las Vegas. We're looking for alternatives types of growth. But other than that, we have to address this car insurance problem because I think it's absurd that low-income people have to pay minimum $200 just to drive around. And they just have to drive a mile because they can't walk or get other means to get to their job.
When you brought up the attorneys involved in car insurance, what were you talking about?
I was reading headlines about attorneys. There's a lawsuit, and then they get a huge settlement, and then, of course, the insurance companies have to pay a large settlement. I don't know. That's what the media tells me. That's what insurance companies tell me, but something has to happen. It's absurd. Either, we're going to have to reduce the rates or we're going to have to find other means to get around, and I think it should be both.
And then when you talk about growth, what's another idea outside of urban planning and as far as transportation that you and your group are discussing?
Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to make residential and non-residential look like each other and more compatible. We have this mass separation of land uses to the point that you can't get around effectively other than a car. Then we have a system called arterial routes, which is Rainbow, Blue Diamond, St. Rose, Craig, Sahara, the list goes on, that makes it difficult for pedestrians to cross. And when you don't have pedestrian life, you're far less likely to get transit use. Well, the reason for that, and the reason why I bring this up, is because, listen, most people here in Las Vegas, we don't even have a home with a large backyard. Most of us live in houses where I take two of my hands, I touch two houses, or I live on top of each other, and yet we still need a darn car to get around. This type of housing is comparable to many of the inner cities in the Northeast, and yet they get around more effectively than we do. We've got to remove the codes, parking minimums, all these policies that encourage the status quo. This is not mainly because of the free market. It's our policies.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to, I know you got here, you were one of the first attendees here, so I wanted to see if you wanted to share some of your thoughts on the discussion or on what brought you here today.
Sure, I'll keep the conversation going. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my name's Michael Herring. I don't have any kitchen table issues or economic issues at this point to talk about. Ask me in a year, and who knows. But my biggest concern is what in the world is happening to the democratic process, democratic with a small d process, in this country. I am frankly appalled that one party, not to be named, is regarded as the folks who are best able to deal with the economy. the folks who are best able to deal with foreign policy, and yet their proposals have, over the last 10, 15 years, become bizarro world. And I just wonder, is our educational system failing to teach people basic economics? Is our educational system failing to teach us how exactly the government works? Because it certainly ain't the way that the one party I'm discussing describes it. It is a process of chaos in a controlled way. That is the nature of democratic government. And if you think that you have to have somebody who comes in and says, well, only I can do it to run the government, you don't understand democracy. You don't understand the process of a legislature having to negotiate. I will say again, that party apparently does not understand that a legislature has to negotiate, that compromises have to be made, and kind of as a sidebar issue, voters don't seem to understand that government policy is kind of like catching a bus. You have to get a bus that you have to walk to, and it takes you someplace near where you want to be and drops you off. You don't get to pick a bus that's like a cab or an Uber that picks you up where you are and takes you exactly where you're going to go, because somebody else wants to go somewhere else. I guess I do not understand where our heads have gotten to in terms of understanding government and economics.
How do you think this affects you as a voter, and, how does this affect voter engagement, even your own engagement?
Well, it depends. I would say that people like me, who are engaged in the Democratic Party, in case you hadn't guessed, have gotten interested in the last 20 years in participating in local Democratic, big D, party organizations. And I know, although I don't know much about them, I know the Republicans have similar organizations. I have no idea what independents want to do. So to more accurately answer your question, for those of us who care enough to get involved, I think all of these issues will affect us, whichever side we're on, because we're much more aware of them. I have this feeling sometimes about independents that, they've been invited to a potluck. They didn't bring anything, but they came and they're complaining about the potato salad.
What do you think that our government, local officials, all elected officials, and just anyone can do to better improve voter engagement and get, especially young people, more engaged in today's elections?
You're probably asking the wrong person, because the Democratic clubs that I belong to, we keep asking ourselves that question. I will say that I have noticed that. In fact, I noticed this when I first got involved in one of the local clubs, or actually the local county party, in 2008, and we had a barbecue. And when I went to the barbecue, I said, "Good Lord, I'm the median age of the people who are here." And I'm still the median age of the people who are there, basically. But I will say that, there are young Democrat, and I know there are young Republican parties, or groups, that, college-age kids, maybe a little bit older, many of them are engaged and are taking part, and that's a good thing. You know where I see the donut hole? We don't have anybody in the Democratic Party who's very active between the ages of 30 and 50, because they're all busy trying to raise kids and make a living. And I don't think that's a good thing. To the extent that they're politically engaged, I'm guessing that they may show up at school board meetings. That seems to be the focus. But how to get people more engaged? As I say, I'm looking for that answer myself.
We appreciate you having you here.
All right, I've headed back this way because I like your green shirt a lot, ma'am. But you did arrive early and you seemed excited. Okay, that's the cross she bears. She's early to everything. We're going to hopefully convince you as the evening goes on. Let's see, what about the woman that just arrived? You're here with someone. Okay, I won't ask you any questions yet, but think about, is there something you wish the media was covering more, or is there something going on that's concerning you that you're talking about with people you know? Okay. You're welcome. Okay, I appreciate you too. Okay, you gotta go. It's your turn now. Please stand up. Thank you. What is your name?
Only for you. Randy Robinson.
What brings you here tonight, and what has you up at night?
Ooh, lots of things have me up at night, but why I came tonight is when I first saw you all announce the Democracy Project, I was very, very, very intrigued. I was at your first meeting over on the west side and hope to make it to as many as possible. But sort of following along with the gentleman up here, I'm probably one of those ones that have a problem with the potato salad. But I'm really concerned about just the state of our democracy nationally, here at home, because it just seems we've lost sight of what the purpose and role of our government is. That they can't be all things to all people, that they can't solve every problem, that it takes, as my good friend Ms. Moulton said earlier, it takes all of us getting involved, but it seems for whatever reason, regardless of what age you are, there's always something else to do, right? Whether it's everyday life or raising kids or work or whatever it is. And I think we've forgotten how we got here, how we started 200 plus years ago, and why, and that's still a very fragile thing that we have to hold on to and stand up and fight for. It's not somebody else that's going to do it for us. It's not somebody else that's going to save it for us. Not somebody else that's going to perfect it or make it more perfect than it isn't, I guess. And so it's very a little frustrating, disheartening. I have kids sort of from 8 to 21 or so, and the things that I hear from them when I'm talking with them about school and what they hear at school, and particularly what they hear on social media and what they and their friends are talking about as it relates to what's going on in our world and in our country, is mind-blowing. I don't think I was talking about those kinds of things when I was their age. But they're being thrust into it, but we're not doing enough, I think, to help them understand it's not just always anger and us against them and you're wrong, I'm right kind of stuff. This is representative democracy is messy by design. And we have to be able to find ways to help them and us develop the skills to grapple with this thing. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. And that's pretty, that will keep you up at night.
You got to give me one example of something your child told you that blew your mind.
It's this. I don't think I can use that language if this is being recorded. But they too often come home and express the same kind of win-lose proposition that you see all the time on TV or social media. And then they get in their own little group, Well, those kids at lunch, they said they supported, this candidate, and these other folks, they supported that candidate. And then they started calling each other names, and then it's just like we were fighting, not physically, but, and I just think they're stupid. And you could leave it there, and it doesn't do anybody any good, but then sitting down and trying to talk through my own kids about, well, tell me a little bit more. Why do you think that? Why do you feel that way? What do you think a better way to deal with this is? How would you rather talk to these fellow classmates of yours, regardless of whether you like them or not? Don't you think there's a way that you could, have a better outcome? And depending on which child I'm talking to, a couple days later, they come back and say, oh, Dad, we had this great conversation, and now I like them, now we're friends. Or they come back and they say, Dad, you're stupid. So,
What's your line of work? Are you a mediator?
I'm a father. Of course, I'm a mediator. But no, I'm actually in government affairs, so this is a bit of a passion of mine. But anyway, it's just one of those things where it seems like a frustrating spot to be, and not enough people are willing to jump into the fray to try to get to a better split, better place.
Last question. How well prepared do you feel your older children are to vote, that are of voting age?
That are of voting age, one of them, completely fine. We've had a number of discussions, and we talk about candidates, we talk about issues. The next one, maybe not so much. And back to your question a moment ago, give me an example. This one slipped my mind, but just the other day, my senior in high school came home and said, Dad, I have this assignment in my government class. It's a survey to find out where you are. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. What do you mean where you are? Well, like where you are. What does that mean? No concept of what was going on here. And I said, you mean where you are politically? Sure, I guess. Where you are, meaning which candidate do you? Yes, which candidate I support. It has nothing to do with candidates. Let's talk about. And we sat down and went through this survey that had been given to her, which I was frustrated because the teacher simply went out and pulled one off the internet somewhere, and it ended up being more of a push-pull than an actual survey. But literally 4 hours later, when we got to the end of the survey and lots of fun and interesting discussions at the end, and we hit, calculate, and it spit out where she was. She was surprised. Her mother was surprised. And I was even a little bit surprised. And so that led into some other good discussion. But as we went through a number of the issues, some of which were probably well beyond a high school senior, quite frankly. But as we went through a number of issues, just talking about, well, what does that mean to you? And how do you feel about it? It's like, well, I don't know. Am I supposed to? Yes, you should be having feelings about these kinds of things. And so when I talk about we don't seem to be developing the skills in our young people, but as we move all along the demographic, all the way to my age and our age and everything, we just don't seem to have or use the skills to engage in our form of representative democracy to get us to a better spot.
Thank you so much.
I've seen you listening very intently. I've seen you taking notes. I was wondering if anything that anyone else has said already, has that resonated with you?
Well, his comments on the transportation system certainly resonated. So I thought that was very good.
How do you feel about the transportation system? Or is there any issues that you encounter as a Vegas resident?
With respect to the transportation system? Well, I think our transit system does a great job with the money that they have, and it's sort of a shame that we don't reward them with more money to provide better and more frequent service and do all the things that they should be doing and that we should be enjoying as a pretty large metro city.
What ideas do you have on how to improve infrastructure here in such a big metropolitan area?
Well, so lots of people have good ideas about that, and I think to be able to fund some of that is the issue. So I think there's plenty of good ideas. There's thoughts, there's people who are willing to work with it, but if they don't have a good funding source, then it becomes a problem.
What originally brought you out here today at the Nevada Democracy Project event?
I just came to listen, yes.
We appreciate you.
Has anything surprised you? Have you learned anything new, or?
No, I mean, lots of things are resonating, education, and that we need to invest in that, and the search for the superintendent that's going on right now. I sort of appreciate the fact that people are engaged with their lives and with their kids and bringing them up, and so they're not able to maybe participate as much as some of us would like them to, but that's sort of expected. But I think coming together, we can find the appropriate solutions. And so I think for me, it's optimism that I see. Yes. Put our heads together, work together, we can find the right things.
All right, denim dress. May I ask you what brought you here this evening? I'll have you stand up, please. Thank you. What is your name?
My name is Mimi.
Welcome.
I'm here as a community listener, so I'm just trying to understand where everybody's concerns are and what's going on with everyone in our community. So I've been here since 1980, so I've seen the town grow immensely. The town used to end when I was a kid. It used to end at Jones, and I lived off of Maryland Parkway, and my girlfriend lived off the Edna and Decatur, and my mom was like, I am not taking you clear across town to her house. And now clear across town has all different meaning. But I love our city. I love what the Nevada Independent and PBS is doing. I'm a member of both. I think it's really important to have these sessions and listen to our community members just so we can get an idea of how to improve, because we're growing so fast. We've grown so fast. We're still growing. There's still more people moving here. So I think that we need to start figuring out how we're going to solve those problems so that we can move forward.
What comes to mind when you think of the growth that you've seen?
I think, well, for myself, it's just making sure that I'm concerned about our state. Like you said, I'm concerned about the state of the state of the nation. Just making sure that our community is supported as it grows and that people that are moving here have a chance to, not just survive, but thrive. So just trying to figure out because these little pockets, also we have little pockets of communities, right? And everybody needs something different. So it's trying to figure out where you can make the most difference in those areas.
Thank you so much. Rocio, do you want to? Okay.
I'd like to respond to this gentleman. He's absolutely right. In other parts of the world, they build subway systems about a fraction of the cost per mile than they do here in the United States. I think that we really need to look and see what they're doing. But a system that I've proposed to the RTC, and I have for years, is personal rapid transit is more efficient than trains. It costs far less per mile. It's actually being proposed in San Jose. I don't want to make this talk very partisan, or because nobody ever talked about the debate that happened 2 days ago, but I have frustrations with both candidates. I think that, first of all, with former President Trump, I think how he brought that pet comment or approach was, I just wouldn't have done it. I don't think that really helped him in any case. As far as Kamala Harris is concerned, About 5 years ago, she came here with March for Fight for $15 an hour minimum wage. We've not seen the minimum wage go up. I think it could have just a little bit. But I think you have to understand that the vast majority of the people want change. They do. They're not happy with the direction of this country. That was why, and I think the Democrats should have learned in 2016, why Bernie Sanders was so popular, because they didn't feel they got it in the 8 years under Obama. Kamala's real concern is that she's from California. I believe a lot of us don't want our state to head into the direction of California. I was born and raised in California until I was 24, just like that gentleman who talked about schools. I think the issue is also the cost of living, and this was a rise from COVID. A lot of people feel that the effects and the measures that we did under COVID was not what it was supposed to be. And more importantly, it's immigration. You know, we've had millions of people come over the border. I don't see how that's making my life any better. I think this side of the valley has been the most affected by this than any other part of the valley, and we can see the conditions and the reality that we see right here. I know this is going to sound extreme, but when you look at the mass migration, it's also being aimed at Europe. I think a lot of people are seeing just the double standards, how this is aimed at Western societies. So what is this all about? I think we really have, obviously, two choices that, sure, there is, some difference in policy approach, but I think a lot of us have concerns about.
As we head into the general elections in November, what are you hoping to hear from either of the presidential candidates?
Well, I think we need to also talk about, and I brought up in the last event, is the financial system. The Federal Reserve is the main factor in our economy. Las Vegas did not recover properly from the crash of about 15 years ago. We just pumped up home prices. A bunch of wealthy types bought up the homes. We had the federal government owning so much land, which made it more difficult to lands to be released, and thus impacting the supply of homes. We didn't grow properly, as I've mentioned before. Basically, we didn't have a recovery. We didn't break up the banks. Actually, that was the reason why people supported Bernie in 2016, because he was the anti-Wall Street candidate. Hillary was getting money from Goldman Sachs. And now we have Kamala Harris pumping up Goldman Sachs in her debate. Seriously? And now we got BlackRock, Vanguard. We have to address this issue. And also this growing level of income inequality, where in the old days, the CEO made 30 times a typical employee. Now it's like 500. And then we wonder why we're not getting the wage hikes that we were supposed to get.
I'm dying to know what brings you here. What is your name?
Hi, my name is Amy Ferreira. I'm actually here just to listen. I am one of your sitting judicial officers, and I'm running for a new judicial seat. And so I've been running all around town asking people what's important to them, what matters to them. And then I heard about this event, and I thought everybody in one place can tell me all the things that matter to them. And I was sort of struck when this gentleman said, I feel like some of our elected officials don't listen. And I think that that's what we're here to do. So if you're somebody who wants to represent a community, to work on behalf of the people who live in the same community as you, that's what you're there to do. It's not actually about you, it's about them. And so to hear people say that other people aren't open to that is disheartening, and it's not the first time I've heard it. I've asked people, what's working in our court system? What are you most concerned about? What do you hate about our judicial system? And I think everybody that I've asked has said, no one's ever asked me that question. And I thought, how shameful. You actually mentioned something, I think, to our expert on the school district about why should we vote down ballot. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think people automatically think whoever's at the top of the ticket's the most important. And I understand why people think that. And what I always tell people is the people at the bottom of the ballot affect your day-to-day more than anybody at the top of the ballot ever will. And when it comes to things like your school board, it affects all of us. When it comes to your judges, that judge is controlling who's walking around in your community. So you want to pick a person that you think you can trust with those types of decisions. I think also a lot of people think, I'm never going to go in front of a judge. You ever got a traffic ticket? You're probably going to see a judge. So I think it's really important that we make educated decisions about who we want to represent us. and who they are as human beings. I think who you are in your everyday life is who you're going to be as a leader. And if you're not a very good everyday person, you might not be a very good leader either.
I am wondering if you could provide any insight into when she talked about talking with candidates, and some do not want to talk, and that happens with the media a lot as well. They can't get everyone to talk about where they stand on things. What do you think about that? Where are they coming from, do you think?
So it's tricky, right? And I'm coming from a judicial perspective. Sometimes people ask me questions and I can't answer the question because it would be inappropriate for me to do so. But their question is usually getting at a bigger issue. And so I think you can certainly have a conversation with somebody about the issue, even if you can't answer one specific question. And I think people who don't want to have a conversation have something to hide. And we should be curious as to why they don't want to have a conversation. Not everybody's going to agree with everybody, and that's okay, right? We're all adults. And it's okay to have disagreements, and I think we learn more and we do better jobs when we hear from the other side and we get the other perspective. We already know our own perspective, and I think you can only grow from those sorts of conversations.
Thank you so much. And this is my opportunity to have John Ralston come and talk about the website's ability to provide information on judicial candidates, because it's hard to find that information.
Yeah, we see this every cycle. Thanks, Amber, for the warning. That people just don't have enough information about judicial candidates. By the way, judges should not run for office, but we are stuck in that in the universe of judges running for office. What we started a few cycles ago was our judicial project, and what we've done is we partnered with the Boyd Law School, and some law students research all the candidates. They find all their articles, they look into their backgrounds, and then they provide a file that we then give to an expert committee. It's a very diverse group of lawyers who have been around for a while, and then we talk about it, and then we just present that information to the public. As a matter of fact, I just got all the initial information back, and we're going to be putting the site together, and there should be something out pretty soon. We'd like to do all races, every race down to the Justice of the Peace in Henderson, but we don't have the bandwidth to do that yet. And we don't have the bandwidth yet to do it outside of Clark County, but we will. And we're going to keep doing it, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. So check out our judicial page. It'll be live probably, my guess is early October.
Thank you, John, for letting me put you on the spot.
Well, that's all the time that we have for this evening. Thank you so much for this engaging conversation, and thank you to the East Las Vegas Community Center staff for letting us use their space tonight.
Yeah. November 5th is the date of the election. You can also vote early, and make sure you are registered to vote.
But you don't need to wait until Election Day to make your voice heard. Public comment is always welcome at school board meetings, at city council meetings, at the Clark County Commission meetings. It's also good to know which elected officials directly represent you and how you can get in touch with them.
VegasPBS.org and the NevadaIndependent.com. That is where you can find this full recording as well as our follow-up coverage of it. Also, before you leave, a quick explainer on how you can make your voting plan before November 5th.
Hey, Nevada, you know your vote counts and you even know who you're voting for, but do you have a plan to vote? Time to make a plan. Decide how you are going to vote. In Nevada, you can vote by mail, in person during early voting, in person on Election Day. You can also place your mail-in ballot in a drop box at an official polling place, both during early voting and on Election Day. Nevadans who are active duty military or their spouses and dependents, Nevadans who are living outside of the country, tribal voters living on a colony or reservation, and people with disabilities can use the EASE system, or Effective Absentee System for Elections. You can access the EASE system through nvease.gov. Now that you know how you are going to vote, it is important to know where you are going if you're voting in person and how you're going to get there. Make sure you know where your closest polling place is and what transportation you'll use to get there and back. Remember, you can cast your ballot at any vote center in your county. Stay engaged, stay informed. Happy voting.
We hope you continue to participate in public forums in your community. Getting together to express your concerns and share your ideas is an act of democracy.
Thank you for coming tonight. We hope to see you at future Nevada Democracy Project events. Have a good night.